My name is Delaney. I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida.
My name is Derek, and I'm from Miami, Florida, and Diane is my mother.
And Derek was like, Delaney, where's mom?
Right.
And like, I looked, because she was, sitting next to me. I looked to my left and I didn't see her.
But finally, like I said, around 2 a.m., Dr. Ormond comes out and he sits down with us, and he's got that look on his face that like...
It doesn't, yeah.
It does not look good.
It's not
comforting. We freak out at first.
It's not a comforting
and
look.
We're all sitting in this big waiting room. We don't even go into a private room because we're the only people there. So he kind of sits us down. He's like, she's like,
alive.
Okay, she's
Yeah.
alive. And that's when he started telling us the injuries, and
it was a lot of I don't know.
It was a lot of, but he was
we
like...
We were asking questions, and there was like, I don't know. He
like,
couldn't give us answers.
What is she going to be like after this? And he's like, I don't know. And they're like, at that point...
And even then, he would be like, let's focus on the next 2 days, because we don't even know, not in a mean way, but like, he was just like, we really can't even speak to what it's going to be like tomorrow. So like, we don't really know if she's ever going to be able to have a normal life again. We're just trying to get her through the next 48 hours.
So, and what they did in that time, in that surgery, was they were trying to stop the bleeding. They were trying to stop the swelling. And they ended up removing a piece of her skull from about here across. That's where the blunt trauma was. And so they removed the skull so that her brain could have room to swell. And she had also broken every bone in her face, her nose, her orbitals. She had broke her occipital bone in the back. She had broken, something else too. She had dislocated her mouth, and her entire upper jaw had been pushed back. So her, her normal bite wasn't there. And in order to keep her brain from swelling, because everything we do in life, when we cough, it affects our brain, but our body is able to naturally suppress these
and it
issues.
goes back down. It's a split second that
it goes up and then it comes back down. The problem was her body was not regulating her brain pressures. So they had to put her on a couple sedatives as well as a paralytic. And they pretty much put her into an induced coma at that point. And, when we finally do get to see her that evening, she's asleep. And, all we have is a monitor to look at. And, they kind of started informing us this is where we want her brain pressures to be, and this is where her blood pressure, and all these, and all you hear is beeping all the time, and nurses coming in and out, and what's happening? What do we need to know about this? So,
But at the point too, when Dr. Ormond was talking to us, he told us about all the breaks, but he also told us that because of her brain swelling, her occipital, orbital. Her orbital nerve was severely damaged, so it's likely that she wouldn't have any sight in her left eye. And she also was not going to be able to smell again, because all of the breaks caused severe nerve damage on her face. And so he said it's unlikely she'd be able to smell or taste, and it's highly likely that she would never see again in her left eye.
But they weren't really sure at that point because they
didn't know, but that was
a
guess.
So this was just an early guesstimate on what that was going to look like. And, we sit there and we just started thinking about what is her life going to be after this? What other surgeries is she going to need down the line? You start thinking about all this long-term stuff because, that strong person who we had seen earlier that morning and packed up the car and was running us out the door is now completely in a coma. And so, with no line in sight about what the next steps are going to be. So I think that's when things for me really started to okay, we're not going anywhere this week. We're not going anywhere for, a little while. Obviously at that point we just kind of decided we're staying here as, long as we need to, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. Our aunt, because Derek called a lot of people when he was in the ER, to kind of update them on what was going on. And so our aunt got us a hotel room for the night. So by the time the surgery ended and they got her settled in her room and we were able to go see her, it was 3:00 in the morning. It was early. And so after sitting with her a little bit, Dad and Derek were okay, probably time to go to the hotel. Let's go check in. But I just didn't feel comfortable leaving her. I like, for whatever, to be with her. And so I told them, I was like, no, like you guys go check in the hotel. Like I'm sleeping here tonight. I'm sleeping in her room. And so the nurses got me like pillows and some blankets. And so I kind of like camped out there. I fell asleep immediately because it was such a long day and we had woken up super early. But I remember in the middle of the night, I was able to kind of tune out like the beeping and stuff. But at some point, something woke me up. And I look over at my mom's bed and there's 10 nurses just surrounding her. And I was like, okay, you know, this doesn't look good. I don't think they're just hanging out in here for fun. You know what I mean? Like they're checking on something. So I like sit up and they're all talking to each other, using a bunch of terms I don't understand, you know, medical stuff. And I finally kind of could see my mom and she's like convulsing, like shaking. And so the nurses were saying like, do we think she's having a seizure? Is this a seizure? But I guess they couldn't tell because I don't know why. For whatever reason, they weren't sure if it was a seizure, but they thought it was. And so I just looked there and my mom is just like seizing uncontrollably on the bed. And the nurses are like trying to figure out what to do in order to help stop that. And that was really hard to see. And so one of the nurses like realized that I was awake and I was watching them and came and talked to me a little bit, which was nice of her. But I barely slept that night. I feel like I was just I felt like I was, what's the word? Like, it's almost, yeah, I was in shock, but almost like it's like an out of body experience. Like I almost felt like I like was living a different, like it was like an alternate universe. You know what I mean? Like I just felt the whole day was just like so emotionally overwhelming. I just like couldn't even fathom what had happened. I remember being super, super scared. I remember specifically when I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw her seizing, I like the thought in my mind was, is she gonna die? Like, is this, you know, like, is that what's happening right now? So I think I was like trying to kind of like emotionally prepare myself if that was the case. I remember just being super worried about her living. Like that was the biggest thing.
In this case, our client was injured so severely she wasn't able to call us on her own, but her loved ones were able to make the right decision and called me immediately. That helped us get the right result. So if you or a loved one is involved in a serious car wreck, call me. Don't take a chance. I'm attorney Frank Azar, the Strong Arm.